listening to Earthquakes. Welcome back to Earth Science 102. Today I'd like to discuss earthquakes. More specifically, we'll talk about the causes and effects of earthquakes. Earthquakes can happen anywhere, but obviously some areas have more earthquakes than others. In fact, about 90% of earthquakes happen in areas where the Earth's tectonic plates move against each other. Tectonic plates are huge floating sheets of rock, which may be thousands of kilometers across, though some are much smaller. The 7 or 8 major plates interact in different ways. They may slide by each other, push against each other, or slide over the top of each other. The areas where these plates come together are known as margins. In these margins, enormous pressure can build up.
So these plates move around the surface of the Earth and hit against each other?
Well, these plates are the surface of the Earth, but yes, that's what happens. Let's look at the different ways these plates can interact with each other at the margins. The term for these breaks or fractures in the Earth is a fault. There are 3 basic kinds. The first is called a normal fault. In a normal fault, the block of land above the fault moves down relative to the block below it. This fault motion is caused by tension or pulling. It results in an extension of land. The second type is reverse fault. This is similar to a normal fault. However, in a reverse fault, the block of land above the fault moves up relative to the block below. This is due to compression or pushing. Consequently, there's a shortening of land. Both normal and reverse faults result in the vertical movement of blocks of land. This is how mountains are formed. The third type is a strike-slip fault. Again, imagine the 2 blocks, but now they are sliding sideways against each other. Strike-slip faults result in horizontal earth movement. As a result of this movement, roads can split apart. Because the movement is only horizontal, there is no extension or shortening of land. Of course, nothing in nature is that simple. Each of these faults can be a combination of any or all types happening at once. For example, a normal fault may also slide sideways as it occurs. Interestingly, the movement along the San Andreas Fault in California is only about 56 millimeters per year, or about as fast as a human's fingernail grows. So, we see that earthquakes mostly happen along these margins, although not always. Earthquakes are merely the vibrations of rock moving against rock. The location of the actual movement, which may be many kilometers below the Earth's surface, is called the focus. And the place on the Earth's surface above the focus is called the epicenter. The worst earthquakes occur when the movement of the rock along the fault line locks up and doesn't move. This forces pressure to build up over time. When this pressure builds and the rock breaks free, it can be devastating.
But earthquakes are more than the ground shaking, aren't they? They cause a lot of damage.
Of course. Let's look a little closer at what happens during an earthquake. Something called seismic waves happen when rocks break free. There are 4 kinds of seismic waves that occur all at the same time. For now, ignore the details in your textbook on the different types of waves, but you should know that they all travel at different speeds in different directions. For example, some waves can travel through solids and liquids, while others travel only through solids. Let's move on now to discuss what happens after an earthquake. What else can earthquakes cause?
Fires?
Exactly. All of this movement is moving a lot of things around at once. So gas lines break. Water lines also break. So it's impossible for firefighters to handle all of the fires. Any other effects?
Well, I'm not sure how to say this in English. A kind of wave can result from an earthquake, right?
Very good. Yes, a tsunami. If there's an underwater earthquake, you'll probably have a tsunami. Tsunamis may also occur as a result of volcanic eruptions. Again, all of these things may affect each other as well. In what way? Imagine an earthquake causes a large part of the coast to fall into the sea. This can then cause a tsunami, sending a wave to travel at a tremendous speed. It may travel thousands of kilometers before it meets land. This wave or series of waves may be 1 meter high, or 5 meters high, or even higher. Tsunamis threaten coasts all over the world. You can imagine the damage they can cause.
May I ask a question? How many earthquakes are there every year anyway?
Good question. Any guesses?
Hundreds?
Thousands?
It's estimated that there are more than 1 million earthquakes every year.
Oh, huh.
Humans can detect only about 100,000 of those, and only about 100 of them cause significant damage. So, now let's move on and discuss.
Tracked